told you the economy is strong. They told you inflation is cooling. They told you the system is working. But if the system is working, why does it feel like survival is getting harder every single year? Why does a normal life now require what used to be considered an elite income? And why are millions of people working more, earning more on paper, yet feeling poorer in reality? Tonight we are going to pull back the curtain on the modern cost of living crisis and examine the uncomfortable math behind the disappearing middle class. This is not about politics, fear, or ideology. This is about numbers, incentives, and the structural changes reshaping daily life. And once you see how the system actually works, you won't be able to unsee it. To live a comfortable middle-class life in the United States today, households increasingly need incomes approaching levels that once defined upper-middle status. Housing, healthcare, education, childcare, food, transportation, and insurance have all climbed faster than real wages for decades. The result is not a sudden collapse but a slow squeeze. A quiet pressure where each year essentials absorb a larger share of income, leaving less room for savings, investment, or security. For generations, the promise was simple. Work steadily, buy a home, raise a family, and retirement would eventually follow. That formula functioned because key assets like housing were affordable relative to income. Education created reliable wage growth, and basic living costs remained manageable. Today, each part of that equation has shifted. Housing sits at the center of this transformation. Home ownership used to act as the primary engine of wealth building for ordinary families. Mortgage payments gradually turned into equity, and rising property values increased net worth. But when home prices rise far faster than wages, the entry barrier grows higher each year. Even when buyers qualify for loans, higher interest rates and insurance costs can push monthly payments beyond comfortable limits. For many households, purchasing a typical home now requires a large portion of income, making ownership feel less like stability and more like risk. This has produced a generation of long-term renters. Renting itself isn't inherently negative, but the financial consequences are different. Rent payments build no equity, provide limited stability, and tend to rise over time. In markets where large institutional investors own significant numbers of rental properties, pricing decisions can become more standardized and less flexible. Communities that once consisted primarily of homeowners increasingly resemble rental portfolios, shifting the balance between local wealth building and external investment returns. Housing costs don't stop at mortgages or rent. Insurance premiums in many regions have risen sharply due to rebuilding costs, environmental risks, and market adjustments. In some areas, insurance availability itself has tightened, making coverage more expensive or harder to obtain. Property taxes also tend to rise as valuations increase. When these factors combine, the total cost of housing can change dramatically even for people who locked in low mortgage rates years ago. Food represents another silent pressure. Official inflation measures may show moderation, but consumers often notice that grocery bills remain elevated. Part of this comes from long-term shifts in production, transportation, labor costs, and supply chain resilience. Another part comes from product changes such as smaller package sizes or altered ingredients that keep prices stable while reducing value. These subtle adjustments accumulate over time, meaning households spend more to maintain the same standard of living. Healthcare remains one of the largest unpredictable expenses. Insurance premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs have grown steadily. Even insured families sometimes postpone preventive care due to cost concerns, increasing the risk of more serious and expensive medical issues later. Medical debt continues to affect household finances, and long-term care for aging relatives can become one of the most significant financial burdens a family faces. Childcare costs have also surged in many regions, often rivaling housing payments. For young families, this creates a difficult calculation. One parent may find that most of their salary would go toward childcare expenses, reducing the financial incentive to remain in the workforce. This dynamic affects career progression, long-term earnings, and retirement contributions, shaping family finances for decades. Education, once seen as the clearest path to upward mobility, has become more complex. Tuition costs have risen dramatically over the past several decades, and many graduates enter the workforce with substantial student loan obligations. While degrees still provide value in many fields, the relationship between education cost and income return is less predictable than it once was. Some graduates find themselves in positions that require degrees but offer salaries that make loan repayment a long, slow process. At the same time, the labor market itself has changed. Productivity has increased significantly over the past half-century due to technology, automation, and globalization. Yet wage growth, adjusted for inflation, has been comparatively modest for many workers. The economic value generated per hour of work has grown, but the distribution of that value has shifted toward capital returns, corporate profits, and asset appreciation. This shift is visible in financial markets. Stock indexes often reflect the performance of large corporations, technological leaders, and global capital flows rather than the day-to-day financial health of households. When markets rise, it can signal strong corporate earnings and investor confidence. But it doesn't always translate into immediate relief for consumers facing high rent or grocery bills. This perceived disconnect can contribute to frustration and anxiety, even during periods of overall economic expansion. Debt increasingly fills the gap between income and expenses. Credit cards, auto loans, and financing plans allow households to smooth spending over time, but higher interest rates mean borrowing becomes more expensive. When interest accumulates faster than principal can be repaid, debt can feel less like a temporary tool and more like a permanent obligation. Rising delinquency rates in certain lending categories often signal that households are reaching the limits of their borrowing capacity. Retirement savings present another challenge. Many workers rely on employer-sponsored plans or individual retirement accounts tied to financial markets. While long-term investing historically provides growth, short-term financial stress can force people to withdraw funds early. Early withdrawals often come with taxes and penalties, reducing the future value of savings and making retirement security more uncertain. Demographic changes add another layer. Many adults now support both children and aging parents simultaneously, sometimes called the sandwich generation. Longer life expectancy is a positive development, but extended elder care can create substantial financial demands. Nursing care, assisted living, and medical support can cost tens of thousands of dollars per year, potentially consuming savings that families hope to pass on to the next generation. Transportation costs have also climbed. Vehicle prices increased sharply in recent years due to supply disruptions, technological complexity, and changing consumer demand. Insurance and maintenance costs followed. For households dependent on cars for commuting, this means transportation absorbs a growing portion of monthly budgets. Negative equity on auto loans, where the loan balance exceeds the car's value, can trap owners in long repayment cycles. Beyond major expenses, smaller recurring costs accumulate. Subscription services, digital platforms, delivery fees, convenience charges, and administrative add-ons gradually expand household spending. Individually, these costs seem minor. Collectively, they can equal another utility bill or grocery trip each month. All of these pressures contribute to a broader economic transformation. Instead of a system primarily built around ownership of durable assets, more sectors now operate on recurring payment models. Renting, leasing, subscribing, and financing replace buying outright. This can improve access and flexibility, but it also converts one-time purchases into ongoing financial commitments. As living costs rise, social behaviors change. People delay marriage, postpone home purchases, and reconsider having children. Shared housing among adults becomes more common. Geographic mobility increases as workers seek regions with lower costs or better opportunities. Remote work has accelerated this trend, allowing some individuals to maintain higher incomes while relocating to more affordable areas. Some households explore international relocation, seeking places where their income stretches further. Others focus on domestic moves from high-cost cities to smaller towns or states with lower taxes and housing costs. These choices reflect a broader strategy of aligning expenses with earning power rather than assuming prosperity will naturally follow career progression. At the personal level, financial resilience increasingly depends on adaptability. Multiple income streams, portable skills, and continuous learning become more valuable than long-term reliance on a single employer or industry. Skilled trades, technical specialties, and service roles tied to physical infrastructure often provide stability because they remain difficult to automate or outsource. Saving strategies also evolve. Instead of relying solely on traditional bank accounts, households diversify across investments, retirement funds, tangible assets, and emergency reserves. The goal shifts from simply accumulating money to preserving purchasing power and maintaining flexibility in uncertain conditions. Community networks regain importance as well. Informal support systems, shared childcare, local food sources, cooperative purchasing, and neighborhood assistance can reduce financial strain while strengthening social ties. In times of economic pressure, relationships often become as valuable as financial assets. None of this means opportunity has disappeared. Innovation continues, new industries emerge, and millions of people still build successful and secure lives. But the path looks different than it did decades ago. The assumptions that guided previous generations no longer guarantee the same outcomes. Understanding this shift allows individuals to make clearer decisions about careers, housing, savings, and lifestyle priorities. The modern economic landscape rewards awareness. It favors those who understand the true cost of debt, the long-term impact of interest rates, the importance of skill development, and the benefits of living below one's means. It rewards strategic thinking over automatic conformity to outdated financial advice. In practical terms, this may mean prioritizing flexibility over status symbols, skills over credentials alone, savings rate over income level, and long-term sustainability over short-term appearances. It may mean driving a reliable used car instead of financing a new one, renting strategically instead of stretching for a risky mortgage, or investing consistently rather than chasing speculative gains. Financial independence, once seen as an early retirement dream, increasingly becomes a form of security. Reducing fixed expenses and building reserves provides the freedom to change jobs, relocate, or handle emergencies without crisis. This freedom, more than any material purchase, becomes the defining marker of stability. The broader lesson is that economic systems evolve continuously. Policies change, technologies reshape industries, demographics shift, and global events alter markets. Individuals who adapt early tend to navigate these transitions more successfully than those who assume past patterns will continue unchanged. For viewers of Sleepless Historian Explained, this moment represents more than a financial story. It's a historical turning point. Every era redefines what prosperity looks like and how it's achieved. The post-war boom built one version of the middle-class dream. The digital global economy is building another. The challenge is not to chase the past, but to understand the present well enough to prepare for the future. If today's environment feels harder, it's not necessarily because opportunity vanished. It's because the rules changed quietly while expectations stayed the same. Recognizing that shift is the first step toward regaining control. The next step is personal clarity. Know your real monthly cost of living. Understand where your money goes. Distinguish between essential expenses and lifestyle inflation. Build a buffer before pursuing upgrades. Invest in skills that remain valuable regardless of economic cycles. And remember that wealth is not defined solely by income, but by the gap between what you earn and what you spend. History shows that societies repeatedly move through cycles of expansion, inequality, adjustment, and renewal. While these transitions can feel uncertain, they also create openings for new paths forward. The individuals who succeed are usually those who read the signals early, adapt their strategies, and focus on controllable decisions rather than external noise. The story of the disappearing middle class is not just about economics. It's about expectations, incentives, and adaptation. It's about how systems distribute opportunity and how individuals respond when conditions shift. And ultimately, it's about learning to build stability in a world where stability is no longer automatic. If this deep dive helped you see the modern economy in a new light, you're exactly why this channel exists. Here at Sleepless Historian Explained, we don't just look at what's happening. We look at why it's happening, how it connects to the past, and what it means for the future. If you want more clear, honest breakdowns of the forces shaping our world, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to understand what is really going on beneath the headlines. Because history isn't just something that already happened, it's something unfolding around us right now. And the more you understand it, the better prepared you are for what comes next. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next episode of Sleepless Historian Explained.